Dan Perry here with another Dan on Tech Python video. In this video, we're going to look at something called nested ifs. Sometimes we have structures that we need to place inside of other structures, and we can do that in Python. In our case right now, the only structure we've looked at is the if statement. So we're going to put some if statements inside of other if statements. Now, when you're nesting structures, it doesn't have to be the same type of structure inside of another. And when we get to looping, we'll see that we could put a loop inside of an if or an if inside of a loop. So what we're going to do is we're going to have an if statement. And if it's false, we'll have our else and some statements. If it's true, we could have statements first, but at some point, and in this example, we're going to go into another if. If it's false, it's going to come back down to the end of that if. If it's true, we may have even another if statement, and it would have, say, a false and a true, and execute statements, and eventually it'll come back and meet up at the end. Now, there could be else's there, so we could have things at the false portion. So let's go in and let's see how we can do that in Python. I've created a little skeleton of a program here. I've got here the enters the score. So we're going to have a value, a numerical value that's a score. Then I'm going to print it out just so that we can see what we entered. Then I'm going to say if the score is greater than 65, we're going to do something. I don't know what we're going to do yet. We're not that far. One of the things you can do in Python is you can put in a comment, a special comment called a to-do comment. And if you do the to-do, the number sign, the words to-do, and then whatever your comment is, you're basically telling Python that we're going to be filling in this command later on. Just a reminder for us that this part's not finished. I've also put a pass command in, and pass is another thing that you can do in Python. Pass is do nothing. So until we fill that in, we're just going to say if it goes into the true condition of this if, don't do anything, just pass on down the line. Now my else, we're going to say grade equals F. So the grade will be an F, and then we're going to print the grade. So let's just run that part of it, and you can see here how we're going to be building the program. So I'm going to first enter a score of 80, and it says, hey, grade not defined. It gave me an error, a traceback error, and it gives me line 18. Well, in this print statement, it's trying to do the grade, but it says the grade's not defined. Well, in this case, because of the value we put in, the 80, it went into the true portion of this if. Well, there's nothing there. Grade hasn't been defined, so since that variable doesn't exist, we got an error on it. That's fine. We were just doing some testing. I'm going to run it again. And this time I'm going to test the part that we did finish, or think we finished, the else, and I'm going to put a grade of 10 in. This time it printed the grade as F because it skipped the true condition, went into the else. The else condition set the value of grade to F, and then outside of the if structure, we are printing the grade. Well, it does exist this time. I'm going to add another print statement in the else, and I'm going to do it for a second because I want to illustrate what can happen if your indentation is not right. So I'm going to go ahead and indent this and just print a grade. Doesn't mean anything. Now, if I run it now, everything will be okay. Put in a score of 10. It prints that line a grade that was part of the else and then exits. Let's say I messed up and my indentation is not correct. I actually see here a little squiggly line, and if I highlight over it, it says unindent does not match any outer indent level. That might be a little confusing, but what it basically says is that this next line is not indented properly. I probably didn't see that though when I typed it, and I run the program. Now I get the error here. It says, hey, here's the error on line 16. This is the line, and it says indentation error. So what I see now is the line and an error says something's wrong with your indentation. So if I go ahead and indent it properly, that goes away. One of the things you're going to have to look for is making sure your indent levels and indentations are correct. So I've got my indent finished. We've already tested the program and we know it runs properly if we put a grade in of 10. One thing you might want to do is test your boundary condition. What if I put in a grade of 65? The way I've got it set up, it is supposed to still do a grade of F. So let's try that. 65, and the grade is F. So we've done a little testing. That seems to be working. So I think our else is completed. So now let's go in and let's work on the next one. If the score is greater than 65, we know we passed. I'm going to set a grade equal, in this case, to D. And at this point, if we ran it, it would run, and if I put in a 65, 75, 80, or 100, it will give us a D. But here's where I'm going to nest that if. So I'm going to create another if, and I'm going to say score greater than 70. And now notice that my indentation is 4 in from this if. So each time you build another structure, you indent 4 more. So I'm going to say grade equal, and I'm going to say C. Now let's see what happens. This is still not completed. We still got more to do. I'll leave my to-do there. I'm going to take the pass out just to make it a little shorter, but I've got my to-do. I've got a couple of different levels, and if you think about this, what are we doing? We're testing the value of the score. So we know what's going to happen if I put in a 50. If I do a 66, it should come down. The score is greater than 65, so that's true. Set grade to D. Check to see if the score is greater than 70. It's not, so it will not set the grade to C. Then it will exit out of the structure. It exits out, in this case, of both if structures, and should come down and print the grade of C. Or I'm sorry, it was the grade of D. I put a 66 in. So the grade of D, and it printed that correctly. It came in. This if was true. So it set the grade to D. This if was false, so it skipped that. And it skipped out of this structure, came down, and printed the grade of D. So let's now finish filling this in. Got the grade, well, let's test it with a grade greater than 70. So now I'll put in a 75, and it says the grade is C. So it went in, came down, this was true, set the grade to D, but then this was true, so it came in and set the grade to C, then exited out of the structure and came down and printed the grade. If 70 was a C, we would need to say greater than or equal. Same thing if 65 was a C, we would say greater than or equal. I want to leave it at greater than. I think you can see where we're going. We're going to now create another if, and I'm going to copy. And notice it is indented further, and this will be a B. What if I forgot to change the 70? It would end up, anytime it should have been the C, it was greater than 70, it would go down to the B. But I'll go ahead and put that 80. And then I'll go in one more, make this a 90, and do an A. And when we run it now, if I try 66, it should do D. If I try, say, 75, it gives us a C. On it, the 75 went in. This was true. Set the grade to D, but then this was true. So it set the grade to C. But this one was false, so it skipped all of those commands. Let's run it now with an 85, and then we'll run it with a 90 to see if we get the right answer. 85, we got the B. If we run it again with 90, or say 91, because 90 would still give us a B because we did just a greater than here. So it went in. We had a true here. It went into this structure. True went into this one. True, true. And it finally finished it. So we got the grade of A. I can get rid of my to do now because that's finished. And now I have a working program that if we enter a score, it's going to give us the appropriate A. Now, notice we've nested or placed ifs inside of ifs, inside of ifs, inside of ifs. Remember, Python philosophy, we wanted our code to be beautiful. This is a little bit ugly. All this nesting inside of each other is a little ugly, so we're going to look at another structure in the next video that will make this prettier. It will not be quite as ugly on it, and it actually, for this particular case, is a better way of doing it. Thank you for watching this Dan on Tech video. Please subscribe to this playlist so you don't miss future videos. Please check out and subscribe to our other Dan on Tech channel playlists.